I don't think there's anyone who would say that drawing anatomy came easily to them, but the good news is that if you can draw basic shapes like these, then you too can absolutely improve your skills. Here are 7 warm-ups that have helped me improve my anatomy. So for this first one, we have superimposed lines, a simple but incredibly effective exercise that I first came across when doing the draw a box course. To start, draw a straight line. If you're working traditionally, feel free to use a ruler, then draw directly on top of it and repeat the stroke freehand 8 times, doing your best to match the original path as closely as possible. Once you've done a few of these and feel more confident, try increasing the difficulty. Make the lines longer, throw in some curves, or maybe even try waves. At first, your lines might wobble or veer off course, and that's completely okay. Over time, this exercise will help you develop better line control, letting you place confident and smooth strokes. This exercise also forces you to stop relying on only your wrist, because if you want to draw those longer lines, you're not going to be able to do that without engaging your entire arm, which is what you want. That change was really a game changer for me, and I used to do this warm up before every single drawing session. It helped my lines become a lot more fluid and consistent, and it also helped with my wrist pain. If you want to make it more fun, get creative with it. Use these lines to build patterns, arcs, spirals, whatever keeps it engaging for you. This way it doesn't feel too repetitive and will still give you all the benefits. For the second warm-up, we're going to draw circles, both clockwise and anti-clockwise. Now, whilst this might seem basic, I promise it's not as easy as it sounds. At least it certainly wasn't for me. My early attempts were shaky, uneven, and ended up looking more like ovals. Drawing circles anti-clockwise felt terribly unnatural, but with time that changed, and it's exactly why doing this as a warm-up is so valuable. Much like the previous exercise, this one trains your line confidence, but it also pushes you to do something that feels counterintuitive, which will help you learn how to loosen up with your gestural drawings. When doing these, you should lock your wrist and mainly use your arm or shoulder to draw them. You can draw circles of any size you'd like to, but I just like doing mine all pretty much the same size, and then once I fill the page with circles that go in one direction, I will fill another with circles that go in the other. By practicing circles regularly, you're setting yourself up for success when you start turning them into spheres and cylinders, which are the foundations of most body parts. These next 2 warm-ups come from Jeff Mellum's book on how to draw people, which has been a really useful guide for me. It helps me progress through the different stages of drawing a person, through armatures, gesture drawing, simplified volumes, all the way through to anatomy, and I'll have it linked in the description if it's something that interests you too. This third warm-up is a natural progression from drawing circles, and a good example of how that exercise sets you up for success. We're now taking those flat shapes, giving them volume, and turning them into the base for heads. To start, draw a circle or oval. Then, to give it volume, wrap a curved line around its middle, as if you were placing a rubber band around a ball. This line helps give your shape volume, and you can place another line vertically to give it more of a sense of direction. Draw a few of these shapes in different positions, different angles, and once you're comfortable with that, you can start to add marks for where the facial landmarks would sit. The wrapped line around the middle represents the eye line, the chin sits at the very bottom of the sphere, halfway between the eyes and chin is the nose, and then halfway again is the mouth. This warm-up is useful because it trains your ability to visualize a simplified version of the head in 3 dimensions, which is great for gesture drawing and using simplified volumes to build a human figure. It's also a really good stepping stone to more advanced head construction methods, such as the Loomis method, since you're already getting familiar with rotating volumes in space. Now let's start getting into structure. This 4th warm-up focuses on drawing a simplified version of the ribcage and spine, not in fine detail but as forms that convey volume and direction in space. Start by sketching an egg-like shape, then carve out ovals from the front and back to represent the arching structure of the ribcage. Add a small circular opening at the top to mark the neck hole. You'll notice that the ribcage is narrower at the top, and that's to make space for the clavicle and shoulder blades. This warm-up is very useful because it gets you thinking about the ribcage as a 3-dimensional anchor. It serves as the structural core of the upper body, and once you've built up the habit of seeing it as a form with weight and dimension, it becomes much easier to layer on everything else, such as the muscles, limbs, and gestures, which we'll get to later on. 2 of the most fundamental 3D shapes in all of drawing, cylinders and cubes. Whilst they might seem basic, they form the building blocks for everything from the torso to the legs to the toes. Mastering them gives you the ability to break down complex anatomy into manageable, understandable parts, which is why it's such a great idea to incorporate drawing them into your warm-ups. This exercise, just like the next one, is about building spatial awareness and understanding how to draw shapes from different angles. Try drawing a few simple cubes, rotating them around if you can, and then do the same with cylinders. This will not only help you with your line confidence, but also prepare you for constructing more complex structures, such as the human skeleton. Full disclosure, I have been slacking a little bit when it comes to this exercise, especially with my boxes, so don't be like me and do this exercise regularly. This next warm-up continues to explore 3-dimensional forms, albeit with shapes that are a little bit more complex. We'll look at how shapes bend, change and interact, so I'll break it down into 3 sub-exercises. This part is about getting pretty loose, experimenting, and just having some fun. The goal here isn't to draw anything specific, but to practice manipulating shapes so that they feel like they have dimension, even on a flat page. You're training your eyes and hands to visualize how forms twist and stretch through space. I played around with some simple cuboids or blocks, don't really know the right word for a rectangular box, but yeah, I tried to bend and flex them in different directions, almost like they were made of rubber. You can try this with cylinders, blobs, or any other simple shapes that come to mind. Adding contour lines, which are like lines that wrap around the shape, can help to sell the illusion of volume. Carving is where things start to get a bit more technical. Imagine your shape as a block of clay when you're cutting into, taking chunks out of, and slicing pieces off of. It's a great way to develop your sense of scale. You can draw the missing pieces next to the larger shape and do your best to make them look as though they fit. It's also a good way to learn how to simplify complex forms like the head or torso. For example, if you think of the head, you could start with a stretched out sphere, carve out a section where the eye socket sits, or slice off the sides to represent the planes of the skull, and have a very simple head shape. This is definitely harder than the previous warm-ups, but will sharpen your eye for depth, structure, and proportion. This exercise expands on the previous two by taking shapes and merging them together to make a complex structure. This is where things get really fun because you can start to think about how different shapes interact with each other and how you can get them to do so in interesting ways. You can take a few different approaches with this, such as soft connections, where the different shapes are like wrapped in fabric or pressed together inside a sack, intersection, where one form pokes through or overlaps with the other, and blending them together, which is where one shape gradually transitions into the other. The main benefit of this warm-up is that it trains you to build complexity from simplicity and to see those shapes in complex structures. For example, after using this as a warm-up, it might help you to notice that you can recreate the shoulder joint by taking a sphere for the bow of the shoulder and combining it with a cylinder for the upper arm bone. Finally, we have gesture drawing, which is in my opinion one of, if not the most important warm-up you can do when studying anatomy. Gesture drawing is all about capturing the flow and energy of a pose. You're not meant to focus on the details, and you don't really need to be overly accurate either. Instead, you're trying to understand the movement of a pose and how the body flows through space. The way I usually approach a gesture drawing session is to do a page of 30-second gestures, a page of 1-minute gestures, a page of 2-minute gestures, and finish with 2 poses at 5 minutes each. But since I'm including it in this video as a warm-up, I would recommend that you do just a single page, either of 30-second gestures or 1-minute ones, keeping it nice and simple and also fast. I know that as a beginner, gesture drawing can feel intimidating and overwhelming. Like, how are you meant to draw an entire figure in such a short period of time? But the important thing is to remember to focus on the big picture. At first, my gestures were pretty bad, and I certainly couldn't draw a whole human in just 30 seconds. But if all you can manage to draw is a single arm or the torso, that's still really good. You've just drawn something, you're moving forward. You're meant to do a bunch of these in one session. Maybe by the end of it, you will have gone from just drawing the torso to drawing the torso and the arms, or adding in the head. With time, you will learn where you spend too much time, what you're missing, what you want to try, and you will get better. At least I certainly did so myself. A video that helped me a lot when I was starting out was the 3-hour How to Draw Heads video by Stephen Houston. It is technically about heads, but the way he approaches them helped me with finding ways to approach the full figure. I'll have it, along with the video that I made on it, linked in the description below. Now, what about implementation? How should you go about incorporating these exercises into your routine? Well, all of these are meant as warm-ups, and the way I do them is to give myself a 15 to 30 minute timer, depending on how much time I have, and fill a page with one of them. If there's some time left, I will switch to a different exercise or just move on to the main part of that study session. In terms of which one you should do, if you've never done an art warm-up before, I would choose between the superimposed lines and the circles exercises, and then after that, it depends on what you want to study next. If you want to focus on torsos, then starting off with the rib cages might be best. Or if you want to study the full figure, then gesture drawing could be a better option because it'll get you thinking about the different proportions. At the end of the day though, any of these warm-ups will be a strong addition to your routine. They're not just for beginners, even if I am one myself. They can be valuable at any skill level, and they will help you practice the fundamentals that show up in every piece that you draw. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.